Good evening. You need to smile first. Okay, so these 5 days in July is my turn to say something. So I chose this book, which is really an excellent book. 7 points on mind training. It's composed by Chekawa Ishidorje. And all these mind training teachings, they are kind of very unique and very powerful in transforming and changing our mind. And these practices are especially useful during times of difficulty, times of problem. Okay? And I myself found this text excellent and very effective to at least trying to give shape to the mind. This unruly mind, which is very difficult to control. Mind is like lightning. It goes everywhere and it's difficult to control. I mean, people have all over the world in the past and even today, people are trying to make the world a better place to live in, and they have tried all kinds of methods. All kinds of revolutions have taken place, Russian Revolution, French Revolution, and so many others, but doesn't seem to be working. Okay, so through force, through physical force, you control some people for some time, but not everybody for all time. The only way to change the world is by changing the individual minds. Because after all, when we talk about transforming the world is nothing but composed of individuals. Even this English word, individual, comes from indivisibility, meaning we are indivisible part of the world. So world really is nothing if it doesn't take into account the individuals. However slow and difficult it may be, the only way to change the world is to change the thinking of people. So that means giving education, why peace is important, why non-violence is important, why living in harmony is important, why life is precious for everybody. All this needs to be taught to the masses, especially to the younger generation, so that they pick up that habit. And it's through this kind of systematic, long-term planning and education that we hope to get a better world in the future. Otherwise, you almost every week now you see explosions, killings, unthinkable in the so-called developed countries. So something is going wrong. Okay? So therefore it is this mind, as the Buddha has said, it's the mind which has created the universe. In Buddhism, we don't believe in a creator God. So it is, if you want to make your destiny or mar your destiny, if you want to make this world a wonderful world or a horrible world, it is in our hand. It is in our hand. There is no shortcut. There is no quick fix solution. Prayers are important. Believing something is important. But that will not solve the problem. We cannot just sit down and pray and then the world, one is just becomes beautiful. There's no quick fix solution. Okay, the only way, however difficult, hard, is to change our perspective, to change our attitude. Okay, change our attitude and perspective means transforming our way of thinking in accordance with the way things are, in accordance with the reality, and developing a larger perspective. When you get personal problems and difficulties, don't just get bogged down with your personal problems, difficulties alone. Think bigger, a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm having this problem, but what about those people? They are suffering much more than me. You see? So in this way, then you will feel that yes, it is very much dependent on the perspective. It's really, the mind is the one that creates the magic. The solution is found there. And for your personal long-lasting peace and happiness, it has to be found within. Believe me. Okay? Nobody, no one else can bring that long-lasting peace and happiness. They can give you ephemeral peace. You can get some pleasures by enjoying certain sensual objects, by having friends, relatives, and so forth. But I'm talking about long-lasting peace and happiness. So we have not much choice. One, either we should say, I just want ephemeral peace, pleasant, pleasure. I don't want long-lasting peace and happiness. Either you should say that, so that your life will become a little bit simpler, probably less complicated. Or you should accept the fact that you want the long-lasting peace and happiness. But interestingly, this wish to get long-lasting peace and happiness is in our blood. It is not something that you learned from your religion, whichever is your religion. It's not something your parents taught you. It's in your blood. And I tell people that we came into this world with this slogan, I want long-lasting peace and happiness. Slogan means, as I always say, that the first thing the child does after the birth is crying. By crying, the child is saying something. And what do you think the child is saying? The child is asking for genuine, unconditional love, for their long-lasting peace and happiness. We came with that slogan, you see. So don't forget that. It's for our own well-being, goodness and happiness that we need to, follow this path of transforming the mind. If your way of seeing things is fine, if your wisdom is fine, if your knowledge is fine, if your ethical discipline is fine, even if the whole world is going to ruins, still you will not be too shocked. You see? Because these things happen. These things happen. And instead of that, if you rely heavily on changing situations, events, friends, relatives, then you will be off and on, you will be caught by surprises and shocks. Because you expected something from this person is gone, this person is misbehaving, you expected a lot from the weather, it's heavily raining. You see, you have no control over these things. So, you see, so what is important is, whatever is happening, yes, it's happening. And try to use that happening, that event, that situation for something productive, for something useful. See it from a bigger, positive perspective. Okay? So therefore, training the mind is really, really important. Really, really important. All our actions spring from our motivation, from our mind. There's hardly anything that you do without having thought. So everything that we do, positive, negative, neutral, it springs from our mind. So that clearly shows that your mind is your ruler, your boss. And if you have molded or transformed or shaped your mind in such a way that good thoughts come, the wish to have harmony, have love, have affection, and all these things are there, then the end product, the result will also be positive. That's for sure, right? So, it is in your hand, not in the hand of others. Okay? That's very, very important, because when we came into this world, we came alone. When we go alone. See? So why is there so much fuss in between? Why do you expect so much from what is not yours, what is outside of you? Right? If you want to achieve success in this life, you have to make effort. If you want to become peaceful and happy, you have to make effort. You have to do the job. Nobody can do it for you. And that's why the Buddha has very strongly said, I have shown you the path to liberation. Liberation is up to you. I am your teacher, you need to do the homework. These are quotations from the Buddha. You see? Self is the protector of the self, no one else can be the protector. Self is the enemy of the self, no one else can be the enemy. We are fond of blaming others for all the misfortunes, all the difficulties, all the problems, because of her, because of him, because of the climate, things like that. So what good does it do, just blaming things? And in this context, Shantideva said, if it is something that you can change, don't worry because you can change. If it is something you can't change, no use worrying because by worrying you can't change it. So it's basically saying, do something that is sensible, that is meaningful. Don't sit there like a stupid fellow, crying and complaining when you know that nothing is going to be achieved by that. So don't waste your time by doing senseless, useless things. Do those things which make sense. Okay? And then another important thing is, knowledge of course is very important, but what is even more important is action. In Buddhism it is said, ignorance is the root cause of all suffering. So I follow someone else's saying, and these days I also say that the causes of all sufferings are inaction. Most of us have no knowledge, and those of us who have knowledge, we don't do things for others. Inaction. Tibet lost its country because of inaction of the Tibetan people. So whether it's your family, your individual, reality, whatever it is, it's inaction. Number one, we don't try to get so many of this knowledge, And number two, even with those knowledge, with full awareness, you don't do. So therefore, the Buddha was constantly saying, wake up. If you summarize the Buddha's teaching, it is basically saying, wake up. And his own title, epithet is Buddha. Buddha means one who is fully awake. If Buddha is somebody who is fully awake, what is the implication to rest of us? It's saying we are sleeping. So through all kind of teachings, teaching on impermanence, teaching on suffering, teaching on all kind of things, different ways and means. Why he is giving so many teachings based on skillfulness? Why he is giving so many of these teachings? Because we are not moving. We are not moving. So he has to tell all these shocking things. Impermanence, you are going to die very soon. You are definite you are going to die. When you are going to die, not so sure. It can be tomorrow, Number one, these are realities. Number two, he had to say these shocking things right in your face because you are not moving. So it's basically saying, wake up, wake up. Then we talk about meditation, one-pointed concentration. What does it mean? It's not simply choose one object and sit there like a stupid fellow, forgetting everything, let your mind sit on that object. What is the motivation? What is the idea behind? The idea behind is that you need to understand the reality, the suffering, the impermanence. Once you understand that transient nature, impermanent nature, suffering nature, then you will naturally concentrate. That's the idea behind. That's the idea. That's why Buddha is saying, okay, do not get too obsessed with this world, samsara. He's saying things like that. And so long as you do not understand the all-pervasive suffering that is there, all the pervasive problems that is there, the transient nature that is there, if you don't understand this, you read as many texts as you want, listen to as many teachings as you want, but unless you think for yourself and develop some conviction, you will not make a move. I read recently one story, very good story, saying that if somebody is holding a stone in the hand, thinking that this is diamond, okay? You ask him, just drop that, don't hold it. He will not drop it. So long as he himself develops this understanding that this is not diamond, this is stone, the moment he understands that this is not diamond, stone, you don't have to ask him to renounce it, he will throw it. Because he has not realized that it's an ordinary stone, he will hold on it. You tell him just drop it, he will never drop it. So similarly, unless you think for yourself and develop that certainty, develop that conviction of the reality, you see, will not make a move. Will not make a move. So it's important to not only listen to the teaching, but think for yourself. How old are you today? How long you are going to live? Is there any guarantee that you will, even if you expect that you live 100 years and today you're 30 years, so we still have 70 years. But where is the guarantee that you will make it, live the rest 70 years? It can be, you can die tomorrow, you can die day after tomorrow. This is not just, said in Buddhism to unnecessarily frighten people, but it is the reality. It is the reality. During the last 2-3 days, if you just read some of the internet, things like that, you'll hear these people died, that person died, somebody was doing PhD, she suddenly died, somebody was Miss Tibet, she suddenly died, You must have read all those things, you see. It's happening around us, you see. So that is not unnecessarily frightening you. It's only simply asking you, telling you, look, this is the reality. So before you lose this opportunity, before you, miss this opportunity, when you have the time, opportunity as a human being with this wonderful, amazing, precious mind, don't waste it. Don't sit there like a cow or a dog, wasting your time. All right? That's what we are saying. And you can do so many wonderful things given with this human intelligence, with the facilities you have at your disposal. If you make sure that you will not get distracted to small, useless things, once in a while you have some fun, that's fine. But how can you afford to just get distracted all the time? We do get distracted most of the time, really, honestly speaking, which is a great loss. And there was a Tibetan teacher who told his student, "Do you practice Dharma?" The student said, "Yes, sir, I practice Dharma." The teacher scolded him by saying, "Don't tell lie. When do you practice Dharma? I saw you sleeping the whole night. In the day you are distracted here and there. So when do you get a time to practice?" It's something like that, you see. You spend a lot of time washing, cleaning, then making food, then going up, then going down. Really. So therefore, at least you should now, the purpose of listening to such teaching, or especially teachings by His Holiness, like that is that you make it a point, make a schedule, so that at least you spend a little bit amount of time reading a little bit of whichever text is comfortable to you, read that, and think for yourself. Think for yourself. Nobody can think for you. If somebody does the thinking for you, you'll not make a move. How many of us have attended His Holiness teachings? How many times? Or other teachers teaching, how many times? But we are not making much headway, you see, because you are not thinking. So adopt this habit of, at least to start with, adopt this habit of sitting quiet for some time, early in the morning, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of reflection on the preciousness of human life, what you can do in this life, how amazing this life is, given its potential. Think a little bit about those things, okay? Just use your common sense. And then plan something. What am I going to achieve in this life? Okay? Things like that. Then what is the meaning of human life? Satisfaction, happiness. Happiness means basically satisfaction. And how are you going to get that satisfaction? That deep down satisfaction, which is called happiness, is not going to come from external material accumulations. When you don't have the money, you wish, I have this much money, I'll be happy. When you get that amount of money, you need more. Okay? Whether it's his husband, whether it's wife, whether it's house, whether it's a vehicle, whatever, there is no limit to it. There is no limit to it. So therefore, do not anchor your life in something that is outside of you, in material achievements, in people, you see. Because they are changing. They are transient, they are impermanent. So therefore, try to discover that peace and satisfaction by doing something good to others. So happiness means deep satisfaction, and that satisfaction will come by being part of the society, meaning that being part of helpful member of the society. Now it's not only what is taught in Buddhism. Scientifically they did research on how people, in what way people are finding happiness. And they found that many of the pleasures that we enjoy in life, it's really fleeting. It's like watching a very gripping movie. You sit there 3 hours, 4 hours, you seem to be getting some kind of happiness or peace or pleasure or something, but after that what? Nothing. You get tired, you start yawning, you know. But if you really do something in the society that's useful, beneficial to others, you get the deep down satisfaction. It's human nature. It's really interesting. Okay? So that is what is being taught here. The more you do things for others without expecting anything in return. It's not easy for us to think like that, okay? Because we are not used. But when we get used to it, we'll be able to do that. Just like you have been doing for your children, you see, or for your dear brother, sisters. You do it without expecting anything. You get satisfaction, because you love that person. Because that person is close to your mind. So similarly, what is taught in Buddhism is try to cultivate that feeling of closeness towards everybody. Because from the side of the sentient beings, they are all exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. It's not the question whether you know them or not, that is the reality. And then in many past lives, the so-called your friends and relatives today may have been your sworn enemy in the past lives. The so-called sworn enemy today may have been your relatives and friends in the past. So there's no certainty. And even in this life, the so-called close friend might become your sworn enemy tomorrow. So it's basically the question of finding happiness in a changing world. Finding happiness in a changing world. If I try to put it in the modern language, then understanding impermanence and getting happiness means finding happiness in a changing world. Don't you agree with that? The world is changing, everything so much and so fast and so quick. So in this very volatile, shaky and changing world, how are you going to maintain that stability? That's the question. So therefore the Buddha said, don't make your mind like a cotton or a feather of the bird. If it is a small piece of cotton or feather of the bird, then with a slight blow of wind, it will be carried in all directions. So your mind should not be fickle like that. If you do that, then the changing situations, events will toss you around, and you will never get that stability, peace and happiness. Okay? So whatever be the changing situation, difficulties, problems there may be in the world, but if you have that realization, yes, these are reality. These things happen. Death happens, suffering happens, problem happens, You accept the reality. Then you don't get too shocked by the changing situations and events. You will not be much affected by that. Now, much affected by that does not mean you should not show concern. That concern will be more of sense of responsibility rather than watching things helplessly. It's not like that. So ordinarily we get shocked and then we watch helplessly because internally you don't have those mental resources. So you are caught completely helpless. But with these inner resources, primarily the realization of the way things are, then you will be able to deal with all situations, ups and downs, no problem. It's very important. So this kind of perspective is really, really important. Because otherwise today, in today's world, whether it's gaining physical health or it's gaining mental health, we only go for this quick fix solution, If there's a problem here, chop the ear or cut the ear or slice the ear or fix the ear, just deal with this part. Don't think about the rest of the body. If there is a problem with the kidney, remove the kidney, replace it. We hardly think about its connection to the rest of the body. That's the problem. So what is taught in Buddhism and even in Tibetan medicine, so you develop that holistic view. The world is a whole entity and we all are parts. So we can destroy the world or make the world. Similarly with your body also, all your senses, organs, they're all interconnected. So take care of the whole body, not just one part. That means in terms of your food also, if you eat a kind of food all the time, that may be good only for kidney. That's what we do. And we are oblivious of many other parts of the body. And then very soon you say, oh, my eye has a problem, my ear has a problem, because you are not looking after all of the body, part of the body. So it's important. That's why it's important to develop this holistic viewpoint, how everything is interconnected, how everything is interrelated. Therefore, what is my role? How can I contribute towards maintaining that harmony in the whole world? I mean, if I just give you an example, if something goes wrong with your body, when we say something went wrong with my body, you are basically saying that the four elements in your body, they lost their balance. When the four elements, they are of equal balance, then you say, I'm healthy. Okay? When the balance is a little bit tipped, the heat is a little bit more, and you are sick. You suffer from fever, things like that. Okay? Okay? So when the internal elements become imbalanced, how will you balance them? By taking food, by taking medicine. Okay? From where does the medicine come from? From external environment. Now imagine if the external environment from where we collect the medicine, if itself is polluted, how can you hope to get a good medicine? So all this understanding of the connection makes us take responsibility not only of the small area where you live, but the wider connection. All right? So it's simple. That's why in Buddhism it talks about all mother sentient beings. It talks so much about all mother sentient beings. The thinking is so big. It's not only talking about human beings, all mother sentient beings. Whole universe is talking about. Okay? When you have this larger perspective, even if you personally get some small problem, you will be able to tolerate it very happily. Seen from the larger perspective, it's really small, it's minor. Okay? So training of the mind, therefore, basically means transforming the mind from negative to the positive. In general, that is called training mind. Particularly, training the mind here in this text particularly means change your way of thinking just for yourself to the one which thinks about well-being of all other sentient beings. Ordinarily, most of us are completely engrossed with the self-cherishing attitude. Now, self-cherishing attitude here does not mean to say that you don't look after yourself. But here when we use the word self-cherishing attitude, it is talking about a mind which thinks just about yourself and forgetting and ignoring the needs of others. And that is one of the main disease, internal disease. Just think about oneself and forgetting others. Two things are said. Most of the text, just two things, basically, two main things. Two enemies to be fought, and these two enemies should be fought with two counter forces. Okay, so which are the two enemies? The two enemies are self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. Many of you have attended my talks before. You know, I've spoken about this many times, so should be able to remember. So basically, whether it's a lamrim or mind training, it's talking primarily about two things. Two enemies to fight with two counter forces. So which are the enemies? Self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. Okay, now I want your participation. We should study this a little bit different from the traditional way. Little bit different. Okay, so enemies identified. Who are they? Self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. What do you mean by self-cherishing attitude? Thinking just about oneself and ignoring the well-being of others. Clear? And what is self-grasping? What is self-grasping? Self-grasping here means seeing things as having independent existence. Seeing things as having, here we use the word self, but self does not mean to the person. Self here means something that has independent, inherent, intrinsic existence. So this seeing things as having inherent, independent existence, that is a misconception. Clear? So what is self-grasping? Seeing things as having independent existence, inherent existence. So that mind that sees things as having inherent independent existence, that is called, other word for that is ignorance. When we say ignorance is the root cause of samsara, we are talking about this mind that sees and perceives things as having inherent independent existence. So these two are our sworn enemy. And especially self-grasping is said to be the root cause of all other negative emotions. Anger arises from there, jealousy arises from there, hatred arises from there. All other negative emotions arises from this mind of ignorance which misconceives the reality. It is a misconception. And this is very dangerous. Very dangerous. Seeing things as having inherent independent existence. Can anybody tell me how is this dangerous? This misconception, ignorance is dangerous. How? Number one, first of all, we should know that things exist, right? Things exist. If things exist, there are only two ways to exist. Either they should exist independently or they should exist dependently. Only two possibilities. Clear? Anything that exists. There are only two modes or ways of existence. Either they should exist dependently or they should exist independently. And there is no third possibility because these two are mutually exclusive. So which one is true? Things exist dependently or independently? Huh? Are you sure? Speak louder. Things exist dependently. So we have to make it very clear. Not just saying, but we have to think, do some homework, take different objects. Myself, dependently, independently. Oh, dependently, dependent on my parents, whatever. Then take a cup, dependently, independently. Like this, you take a lot of examples and see whether they exist dependently or independently. Then you will find that things exist dependently. Clear? That means there is nothing that has independent existence. But although there is nothing that is independent existence, but our ignorant mind sees things as having independent existence. That's why we call this misconception of the reality. Right? When things don't exist independently, but your mind sees things existing independently, that obviously is a mistake. It's a misconception. That's clear. Very clear, yeah? But the question is, okay, this is a misconception, but what is the problem with that?
Craving and grasping will arise.
Huh?
Craving and grasping will arise.
How?
Because we misconceive the things.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't see that as a real.
Yeah.
So if something is very, so attractive, we will think that as a real and then we will chase.
No, reality is there.
So chasing will be there.
Reality in general is there. Okay? There's a real human being living here, so that's not a problem. The problem is when we tend to see things as having independent existence means, if let us say there is a beautiful object, if that beautiful object has inherent independent existence, that means that the beauty is from its own side, 100% from its own side, blameless. It's not dependent on any cause, any condition, so therefore it is, the beautifulness is from its own side. So that means unchanging beauty. Is there anything that has unchanging beauty? That's what I'm saying. So when you see something as unchanging beauty, whatever object it is, you will be mesmerized. You will be hypnotized. Wow. So good, this car, this Mercedes car, the BMW car, whatever it is, or a human being, whatever, you get just, you see. That's why in this text by Tongme Sangpo, in his 37 Bodhisattva practices, he says, how to say, when you encounter an attractive object, you should see that like a rainbow in the summer. Although looking beautiful, but don't develop grasping because there's no essence there. It's only from a distance that appears beautiful. The closer you go, the more it will disappear. So things are like that because it doesn't have inherent independent existence. All those objects that you thought attractive, wonderful, good, the more you live and associate with that object, that person, the more you will see the reality. I'm cheated, I'm deceived. It's not as good as I thought earlier. That's what happens when we buy an object or when we make a relationship with a person. That is exactly what it happens. You see? That's exactly what it happens. But you never learn from that. You never learn from that. For example, if you get married with somebody thinking this is absolutely wonderful, this person is absolutely wonderful, then you live together, you see the reality. Then you start like having problems. Then you get separated. Then what you do? You don't learn from this. What you do? This person did not work, but another person will work. You see, that's what I'm saying when I say don't anchor your happiness in objects and people. That's what I'm saying. Again, you are anchoring your happiness in something else. This person didn't work, but this person will work. You marry again. Then when you spend time again, you see the same thing. Then you change. So you spend your whole life changing your husband, changing your wife, changing your furniture, changing your cars, not getting happiness. That's what I'm saying. That's a reality. So right from the beginning, marriage itself is not an issue. Issue is right from the beginning, if you have met that relationship with full understanding that this is also a human being, he has also good points, bad points, we have to adjust, we have to develop some understanding, then everything will be fine, you see. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. And similarly, if you have an object that you hate, you don't like, then you see that object 100% negative, horrible, nothing to do with this person, But then the reality is that person has his relatives, friends who, talk highly about that person. So that shows that person is not 100% negative. He has also some good qualities, things like that. So everything is dependent on many multiplicity of causes and conditions. Then in our real life situation also, if you encounter some problem, some difficulty, you will not end up blaming everything to just one person. Normally that's what we do. When we encounter a tragedy, when we say, this is because of sharing, this is because of Tenzin. Because that is the nature of these negative emotions. These negative emotions are narrow-minded. It's not based on wisdom, therefore they are narrow-minded. Narrow-minded means they need to focus just on one thing. That's why opposite to this, I'm talking about developing that larger perspective. If you have the wisdom, you will be able to see multiplicity of causes and conditions, situations, events, larger perspective, so you don't get shocked with slight ups and downs. Contrarily, if you develop these negative emotions, your whole focus becomes narrow. And then you want to target, he is the reason for this problem. He is the source of the problem. Eliminate this person. Do away with this person. You see? You are unable to take into account that so many things are related to even one small event and situation. That's the problem. And that those kind of narrow-minded negative emotions, they will suffocate you. They will suffocate you. Virtually they will suffocate you. Like anger, for example. When you get angry, it's really suffocating. You are unable to breathe. It's a living example. Last time also he said this to me. This time also he is saying this to me. You are unable to breathe. Virtually. That's what I'm saying. You are unable to breathe. But when you develop love, compassion, you are relaxed, you are able to breathe, your face becomes nice, blood goes properly in your body. You don't have to use any makeup. When there is a proper circulation of the blood in your face, it will become white, red, Really, honestly speaking. But if you internally it's impure, blood circulation is not well, breathing is not well, And then you put so many things, but still it will not be long lasting, you see. That's why Buddha stopped using cosmetics. but he carries this beautiful smile on his face, you see, really. And look at His Holiness, is a living example right now. His face is the most beautiful, handsome face, you see, you can ever see. Age has nothing to do, he's always happy, smiling, you know, attracts everybody. Just able to get a darshan of him, glimpse of him. I saw His Holiness so happy, you know. And if he touches you, oh, of course, once in a while in life, you see. And because of this practice of love, compassion, genuine concern for others, that makes you life. I mean, he's been taking this very difficult task of looking after Tibetan people in such a difficult situation, but still he's going around smiling, saying that there are things we can do, we should do it. There are things we can't do, so what is use of worrying? And then he says, I get very good sleep. My blood pressure is like a baby blood pressure, things like that, you see. Really. In our case, we get a little bit big problem, little bit more work. Oh my goodness, what to do, you know. So much problem, you see. Because we are unable to take into account the bigger picture, the reason for our life, the need to help others. Okay? So therefore many of these teachings, they give an example by saying, I have only one servant. I have only one servant, and that servant is so efficient that he does the job of many servants. That means bodhicitta, that means love, that means compassion. If you have one of these qualities, in one of the Buddha Sutra, he says, if you have one practice, one quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the qualities, all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that practice? Compassion, great compassion. Amazing, you know. If you practice one thing very properly. So in your case also, now it's not enough just keep on talking, you know. We need to come up with some initiatives. Like in your personal life also, you can make a promise saying, okay, this week is my compassion week. You don't have to announce it and organize it, a big thing. You can do that also. But on your small level also, my compassion week with my family. My week of love with my family. My week of patience with my family. You know, be inventive and take these initiatives and try to live. And during those 1 week, read more about compassion, read more about love, and try to practice it. You know, you will get so enriched by reading and also practicing. And by practicing, you learn much more than talking, you see. Because when you practice, then you really encounter difficulties. When you're talking, especially like here talking, it's very easy. I mean, very easy, maybe not, but relatively easy. Because you're all receptive and listening, then I have to say something. You know, nobody's harassing, no problem, you see. But after the teaching session, when you meet different people, you know, then there's a time to judge your knowledge, judge your practice, all right? So it's important to little bit be inventive and start doing something, not just waiting that somebody will start a big thing, then we'll all join. Not like that for spiritual practice. One has to do it. It's not like construction of a house. In the case of construction of house, okay, you construct the first floor, and that's what I do. I look after the construction of the first floor, then I travel somewhere, I tell my staffs, okay, please look after the construction of the second floor and third floor. It's an external construction, so I can say things like that. But in my internal spiritual construction, I cannot say, I've been meditating on compassion for the last 3 weeks, now I'm traveling, please continue for me. You can't say this. You have to do the practice. You have to do the practice. Okay? So therefore, like, it's really, really. And then for the Popatsoina, we have a lot of Tibetans here, so let me say a few words in Tibetan. Popatsoina, the peche de sonyo the log. Ekali kumshi chawdorwa. Temado injira chenga che, the nepi malo yukia, and chiga machine cherwa. Yahuya marangune. Lord, pecha yanye manguyor, kitchetirwa, Karilon yagaring, among Bulo to some young logi singing over Karlabgina, Guzuk chiche, and the pecha the tempted as the digni pecha the peri, a watching you, touching butch in the shah nang layer, Committee to Sunjawar, Tandane. Temada do Shan and Dode, any consumption in some last and Yomar da Keke. Rwa. I did consuming now the digital Tamam Yakushi in the Chilot in the Duge unit, there's a dog and digger Madua. Madua. Chijimitus hangs on the Yungwe, Duge Mesa Yunguera, you know the Yungumarwa, or what thing also knows how goes in. Nazuta Lungta Jugna Sena Karsegota, Lungta Jugara, the Maritanga Machu Tamadus, Hukale Javakaril Denatang, Hazuk Malon, Yukia, Panged in the Rema Dogeta, Tanda Pedil, Susu Lumba Shon, Chilo, Dave, Kavla, Yina, Tapena Hazut and the Pensus or Kawan, the Sun, the Pesha, and Hazulona Pet. Rua Casil Lolo Dua. Kem Gurumba Sung, Dimibita Kibongo Megasung, Hang, Science in the Tayo, Mare Logan. Nikung there, same year, she's almost down there. Any tape in the Sungjo in the tape the Sanga Jamdele, Tijal Yang, how you Sarame take do things. Pecham Gokor so the Sachilu, but Pangbo Hill in the Pecha, what in the door you have. What did it? That did Yam Yam, Temper Yams or this gore. Temper Chitan Temper, Yam Guerman, Susu Yam do Yorba. Suzuki, the Rishum, Puggy, Susama, the Yam to do. Rova. The vacation Burda. Not to Lotion was a chance of Mangpotona Chigro Yakbure. DJ magic so he was him give a yacht. Petishun than the key test logaji. Peja said the Tama the law was out in the Marwa. Rwa. The compete Shaya Guraji, Sanji Guraji, Sha, and the Chungna Barubu Chumbu to Cha, Sarah, and Jimmy Zulaka and Gizamare. Kawaina Zulaka, so the trading the Tukisana. Any peja this work, Perik Dina, Yakbojin, Sha, Molam Jab said, the legend seemed you seeing to us, those child of your Madogi. You magic hopes are going to like you go to in Chayo Marwa. Jan Chayo Mare. Mune. Think of the Tantachan solution, but Tonaching and in the Lavnasams. Among which Tonankora Yomare. Younger Koramare than the regular. Zamilican that you live your Dondo Chigre. And consumption is someone allowed to hand Tor any gale or the job, then it shows came do. Any Jamaic each other drinking Torgudu, he would love Gachi. And Pela Coca Mendoza, Jagachi, one of the Nepal. And Pela Coca may be injured, Dembare. And they'll cook up the Wesena, Dula Gorva. Carjin Chigame Labna. The Takasa Kejaduzo. Suzu Ched Majeche, Coca Merima to Garoche Tangu Chiju and Dondo Chigachi. Cook up day about the Chiga Pejamana, did the Chigdo. Didn't also do so, probably computers to Jewa Jam Nerva. Rotating a love Saraswadi. Much of our problem is inaction. Machin. Bezo Majin Redwa. So I was urging my Tibetan friends to make it a habit to keep some of these precious texts nicely, wrapped in the page, that cloth, and then almost every day they read a little bit. Symbolically important, these things you should give. And then make it a point to read at least 3, 4, 5 lines or 1, 2, 3 pages. I do that almost every day. Almost every day. There's hardly any day when I don't read books or texts. So it is really, really important, especially for the Tibetans. Otherwise, if you don't pay attention, then gradually, it's like environmental destruction. You see, things will die a natural death with the passage of time, and then suddenly you realize, oh, now where to turn to? Nobody knows. You see, their time will come. That time will come. So therefore, these are very, really, really important issues. Keeping the Tibetanness means not just the dress and pag and samba, Tibetanness basically means the Rishung Segdwa, Rishung culture, Rishung, Rikbe Shunglu Segdwa. So Lobjan Jansaki Shunglu, the so Rishung Segdwa. Rignes and Rigballoch in a Dintosagita, Ne Sidudi, Peja do Sigore. No, those are Rignes Segdwa. To turn out the machine, Rishung Yamara, Rigne Yamara. Okay. So it's of no meaning simply complaining about the opportunities that we don't have in Tibet, things like that. Here we have the opportunity. So if you don't do it, it's a shame. It's a shame. And you can only give a befitting reply to the wrongdoings of Chinese by doing, not by asking. Really make it a point. You get things by doing, not by asking. You ask UN all the time. They'll do small things here and there. What will you actually get? Especially when we talk about preserving Tibetan culture, it's a question of imbibing all these wonderful teachings and integrate it as a part of your life. It's very, very important, and we are very fortunate to have this opportunity right now, and especially while His Holiness is still there. You see, the time will come when His Holiness will not be there. And many great teachers will not be there. Don't take it for granted. Then where are you going to turn to? These are big challenges, really, really big challenges. Oh yeah. So therefore, thank you for all of you for coming and giving me this opportunity to explain this wonderful text, 7 points of training the mind. 7 points of training the mind. So there are 7 main points. So that's why it's called 7 points for training the mind. Homage to great compassion. See? He pays homage first of all to great compassion, not to a person. He did not pay homage to Buddha or Manjushri or Avalokiteshvara. He pays homage to compassion. Because Buddhas are born from compassion. Bodhisattvas are born from compassion. Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, all these great individuals, beings, they are born from compassion. And even bodhicitta, which is the main object of this discussion in this text, is born from compassion. So therefore, compassion. Now what is compassion? Compassion is a mind which says, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. Understand it. What is compassion? Especially great compassion. It's a mind thinking, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. So we should treat this gathering as a interactive class, not just a very high lama giving blessing and teaching. I'm not high lama, you see. So we should make it a point that you understand something. So compassion is a mind which thinks, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. Now you can see the greatness of compassion once you understand this definition. How nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. When you say all sentient beings, that includes all sentient beings, including your enemy, the Chinese leaders, whoever. You include all of them. So can you include them? So you have to think, you see. So that's what I meant, that you should yourself think. Then you will really, learn how you will be able to develop this great compassion. It includes all those people that have irritated you. Can you develop compassion to everybody? All sentient beings? In the beginning you can say, oh, not easy. Not easy. So what you should do? Therefore, before you develop compassion, you do this meditation on equanimity. Equanimity, meaning that all sentient beings are same. All sentient beings are same, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. All right? All sentient beings are. Oh no, sorry. You first develop this compassion towards your friends and relatives. Friends and relatives. That's easy because you love them. Then you move to the neutral sentient beings, people who have, or sentient beings that have never helped you, never harmed you, move to them. And if you're able to develop this compassion to them, then gradually move towards the enemy. With the realization that whether they are your enemies or your friends or relatives, they are all same in wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. So stage by stage. So great compassion. So this should be not only your practice, it should also be your prayer. That should always say that, may I be able to develop this great compassion. The reason is because everybody wants happiness, do not want suffering. Like you take so much care about yourself. Why do you take so much care about yourself? Not because you are special. You cannot say, I take so much care about myself because I'm a professor, or things like that. You take care about yourself because you want happiness, do not want suffering. So similarly, you take care of others because they all want happiness, do not want suffering. And you might end up by saying, oh, that is true, but who am I to take care of everybody? Huh? They should take care of themselves. That's our ordinary way of thinking. But then the text says, yes, if they know how to take care of themselves, then of course they should take care of themselves, but people don't know. Now already by attending this teaching or attending some teachings, you already gain much more knowledge. There are many who have never heard any teaching, they have no knowledge. They want to practice only self-cherishing attitude. So the reason that you develop this compassion to all sentient beings is because they want happiness, do not want suffering, but because of ignorance they don't know. They don't know. So therefore, you should help them. Because they don't know. They are like small kids, small innocent kids. They are busy building sand castles. If you send your kids by the sea beach, they'll spend long time building sand castles, as if it has a great meaning, you know. And when they have constructed one sand castle, if another child comes and gives a kick and destroys that castle, that child will cry as if a real castle has been destroyed. But those of us, the grown-up people, they say, oh, this is just a playing thing, you know. This is just playing thing, it's not the real castle, so don't worry, I'll give you another one. Okay? So similarly, from the Buddha's parlance, we are all building sand castles. We are crying and suffering for not so important things, meaningless things. So therefore Buddha is saying, don't cry when your sand castle is destroyed. Okay? So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, therefore you will be able to see that all the sentient beings, because of ignorance, they are not able to take care of themselves. Even though they want happiness, they run after causes of suffering. Okay? So therefore, I'm a little bit educated, I have a little bit more knowledge today, a little bit Dharma knowledge, so I must share them, I must help them. That's what the text is saying. So therefore, there is a responsibility for you to develop compassion towards all sentient beings. And that's good for you. And His Holiness says it very clearly that if you meditate and develop compassion to all sentient beings, it's not sure whether they are going to get any benefit, maybe not. Unless you are highly realized spiritual master who has that capacity to send the energy forth. But otherwise, you're not going to help them directly, but you will be helped directly. It's interesting, the more you develop this selfishness, the more it will tighten its grip and suffocate you, as I said earlier. The more you develop on compassion towards others, the more your inner door opens. It's liberating. Selfishness is suffocating. Love and compassion, they are liberating. They free you. I mean, you can test it, you see, you will see it. Okay? So therefore, homage to great compassion. Homage to great compassion. Thukji Chembola Chak Salo. Chak Salo. The word, Tibetan word Chak Salo. Chak means Chakma Chawa, sweeping. Kenying Chawa. Chak means to sweep. Khari Chakore, the afflictive emotions, the negative emotions which are like dust, sweep them clean, remove it from your mind. And then Salo means receive the good qualities of Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Sweep the negative emotions and replace it with positive emotions. That's the meaning of Chak Salo. And therefore, like to represent that, we also pay homage by bowing down, which is an antidote against arrogance. So, one very important point to receive any higher knowledge is that you should be humble and you should be receptive. That's why we bow down right in the beginning. Okay? If you're arrogant, there's no room for you to receive any higher knowledge. So be humble, be receptive. That's the meaning. Tizu simsa rebe. Rwa? Rebe. 6:30? Oh, one or two questions, then we stop. One question, yeah?
What is the exactly meaning of happiness? Because when we realize that the life is suffering,
Yeah.
it's like
In Buddhism, we don't say life is suffering. In life, there is suffering. Okay, there's a big difference. There's many people misunderstand this. We don't say life is useless, it is suffering. We never say things like that. We say in life there is suffering. And we also say in life there is happiness. Okay? But in life there is no, like we ordinary people, we don't have long-lasting happiness and peace. We get interrupted peace and happiness. But what you want is uninterrupted peace and happiness, long-lasting peace and happiness. So how can we get that? That is the question. The way to get is, you get rid of all the negative emotions. Replace them with the positive emotions. Then you will be happy. And if you achieve the nirvana, enlightenment, you are permanently happy. Right? Now even in ordinary case, those people who are more contented, more caring towards others, normally you will see them flourishing. They are more happy. And then there are people who are always complaining and not contented with life,
But it's difficult. I'm living in Spain, and in Europe is a very difficult situation with terrorism and all this fear thing.
So that's what I'm saying.
Be inside and outside of this.
That's what I'm saying. So therefore you need to get the bigger picture. Like for example, if you are talking about Europe, there is a lot of suffering, then what about, say, the refugees? Tibetans, luckily, we are a little bit in a better situation because of good leader and maybe the host government and other things. It's okay. But today, right now, we have over 65 million refugees. 65 million, probably more. And how many, like thousands, they die in the sea while trying to flee from their country to other country. How many die at the border, not being allowed to come in? I've seen myself, boats capsizing and hundreds and thousands just getting drowned, you see. What about them? So that's why you need to just, as I said already, you may have some problems, difficulties, but compare it to many others, you see. Then you will see much better. There's a story which says if somebody slaps you, then I say, oh, it's okay, no, not a big problem. It's only slapping. He did not, bleed me. If somebody uses a knife and hurt you and bleeding, still you can say that okay, it's bleeding, but I'm not dead. It's not saying that you let others do all this and sit there as a dumb, stupid fellow. But what I'm saying is, if there is if it's a situation where there is nothing much can be done, then you should think positively. And I have always been saying that if you are somebody who has lost the left hand, and has the right hand, there are only two choices for the rest of your life. Either you keep on thinking about how lucky you are, you have still the right hand, that's one way of thinking, or for the rest of your life, just think about the missing hand. Which one is better? Yeah, for the rest of your life, oh, I am unfortunate, my left leg is not there, and thinking in that way, you don't also use your right hand. The left hand will not come and, come back to you. You are only crippling yourself. I told you this story, some of you have heard this. I once watched a documentary that was shot in Thailand. So there was one Thai who goes to a war, near border area, and before he goes to that fight, he tattoos his whole body with a Buddhist ritual, thinking that he will be protected when he fights the enemy. But unfortunately, he was caught, and both his hands were chopped and both his legs were chopped. But somehow he remained alive and was able to come back. And the television crew goes to him for an interview, and asks the question that you went to fight with the belief that you will be protected by the Buddhist ritual. Now see, you lost both of your hands, both of your legs. So what do you say? Unbelievable answer. This person without hands, without legs, he looks at the screen and says, still I am alive. That's what I mean, you know. He was not thinking about this missing hand and leg. He was thinking that he is alive, what he has. And just few days back, I mean, we see many of these things. Many of these disabled. There was a guy who had lost both of his legs. And then with this artificial leg, he climbed Mount Everest. Can you imagine? Unbelievable stories like that, you see. So if you don't lose your courage, lose your spirit, and appreciate the good things you have, you can do miracles. You can do miracles. And then that's why, like the Buddhist teaching is saying that you just don't waste your time thinking what will happen in the future, you know. Oh, now let us say, like in your case, Europe, oh, Europe is now changing, many bad things are happening, what to do, maybe there is a bomb in my room next time. If you keep on thinking like that and feel unhappy, I mean, it is not going to do any good thing to you. And be alert, be careful wherever you go, like not mixing too much to the crowd, marketplace, unnecessarily, you know, and watchful. But that doesn't mean that you don't enjoy your life. Okay? Things like that, yeah? One last question. Interesting question. No question? No answer? Then we stop. Thank you very much. Thank you.